Doors back there were locked, except for Sierra, so. All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. If we can wrap up our conversations and like to start the meeting. We have a chatty room this morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Joaquin Escobar, Chair of the State Water Resources Control Board. Today is Tuesday, December 2nd. It is 9:30 a.m. or 9:05 a.m. and I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'm being joined this morning by Board Member Nicole Morgan, Board Member Sean McGuire, and Board Member Laurel Firestone. We're also being joined this morning by our Executive Director, Eric Oppenheimer, our Chief Deputy, Karen Mogus, our Chief Counsel, Michael Loffer, our Clerk of the Board is Courtney Tyler, and assisting her this morning is Margie Argel and Biba Malitic. As you can see, this is a hybrid meeting with both in-person and web components. If you're joining us by web, you should be viewing us through our customary webcast on the YouTube Live website or the Cali PA website. But if you're having any challenges getting onto the platform, and if you intend on making any comments this morning, you should be on the Zoom platform. If you have any challenges getting onto that platform, please do just email the clerk of the board at board.clerk@waterboards.ca.gov, and she can help get you onto the platform. Once you are on the platform, your camera will be off. You'll be on mute until it's your turn to speak on the item you've indicated. For everyone here in the room, good morning. Good to see you all. We're here in Sacramento in the California Environmental Protection Agency building. Just a few quick announcements for us here as well. Please do observe the exits. If we happen to have an emergency, we'll calmly file out to Cesar Chavez Plaza and await further direction. Also, if you intend on commenting on any of today's items, you need to sign up. There is a QR code at the side of the room here, also a laptop. But if you're having any challenges signing up, please do just email or just go to the clerk and she can help get you set up. And then lastly, please do just silence any phones so we have an uninterrupted discussion this morning. Well, this morning we're actually starting off before we go to public forum on a presentation of a Superior Accomplishment Award, and would like to call up Yvonne West in order to present the award this morning.
Morning, Chair Escobar, members of the board. Thank you very much for this opportunity. So hopefully you can hear me. Yeah. I'm here today to present Renee with the Superior Accomplishment Award. Renee Maher has served as our Executive Assistant for the Office of Enforcement for the past 15 years. She has served through 3 directors, and she has been the glue and the fabric of our office. Renee has grown in her role as the office has changed and grown. As the front desk of our office, Renee is almost always one of the first people members of the public talks to when they have a concern or a complaint about the work that the water board does. Among her this is just one of her many responsibilities. She can often be heard talking with a member of the public, asking questions about their concerns and their problems, and saying that she is just an executive assistant, trying to understand the problem so she can make sure that they get to the right person to help them. But Renee is more than an executive assistant. As I said, she is the fabric that binds our office together. And over the years, she has handled every administrative support problem you can imagine for our office, from purchasing office supplies to scheduling interviews to making sure that we all have the training we need and that we get reimbursed for our extensive travel throughout the state. More than anything, Renee cares deeply for the people that she works with. So it is my pleasure today to present to her the Superior Accomplishment Award in recognition of her 15 years of service with the office, and express the gratitude not only of myself, but of everyone in the Office of Enforcement for everything that she has done for our office. So thank you, Renee.
I have to quickly add my thanks as well. Yvonne, thank you for elevating Renee and her work. 15 years and is an incredible amount of time to be here with us here at the board. And just, I know, I think back to my time as an intern in Senator Boxer's office working the front phones, and I know how you get a lot of calls. You get calls from folks that are deeply concerned, don't know sometimes where to go. And so your ability to make sure and connect with those folks and serve, importantly, the Office of Enforcement here is just really appreciated. So thank you, Yvonne, for elevating Renee's work, and congratulations. Thank you, thank you. We can do our traditional awkward dais photo really quick as well. So. Thank you again, Yvonne and Renee, and thank you everyone for allowing us to have the space. It's really important for us to always be able to acknowledge the true folks that get the work done here at the water boards. So thanks for the time this morning. All right, that now brings us to public forum as we traditionally have here. And as I try to get my public forum list up, I'd like to call first Jeff Ellsworth, who then be followed by Ray Tahir, and then Robert Martinelli. Ellsworth.
Can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Great, thank you. Chair Esquivel and board, I appreciate the opportunity to present. We got permission to do a 10-minute presentation, and I'll move through these slides here. And my understanding is that somebody there will move through as I indicate the timing. So my name is Jeff Ellsworth. I'm the former mayor of St. Helena, Napa County, California, and also now a member of Cal LULAC, which is the League of United Latin American Citizens. And this is a presentation on the ongoing San Francisco Bay Area and California Latino waste worker fatalities, impacts, and civil rights concerns. That's the first point, the nexus between these points. The second point being the recent 2024-2025 California Assembly Senate joint audit and hearing related to significant deficiencies within the Cal OSHA processes. And three, waste site toxic exposures and large-scale fire and contamination incidents with public safety, environmental, and water quality concerns relevant to the water boards and other public oversight agencies. We're asking for these issues to be examined comprehensively and transparently, ideally in public hearings where all pertinent information can be brought forward. A little bit of background: the California LULAC Waste Workers Advocacy Committee formed in 2025 and has now joined with a broader coalition of advocacy groups to support Latino waste workers exposed over decades to dangerous waste site conditions in California, including the San Francisco Bay Area. This includes Latino worker fatalities, workers exposed to unregulated radioactive waste, and other significant contaminants, including related to water quality, workers exposed to ongoing fires, toxic smokes, as well as wage discrepancy, discrimination, civil rights, and intimidation concerns. And our hope is to work together with the water boards and other relevant public agencies to address these concerns, to prevent further fatalities, and to prevent further large-scale threats to public safety, including with water quality concerns. Please move to slide 2. So here are at least 4 Latino waste workers, human individuals, killed on the job within the jurisdiction of the San Francisco Bay Regional Water Board. This is Luis Guerrero, an ALCO worker who died in 2025. Alfredo Romero, Recology Brisbane worker who died in May 2025. Alberto Anayo, an ALCO worker who died in 2017. And Gabriel Diaz Cervantes, an Upper Valley Disposal Service worker from Napa County who died in 2013. Next slide, please. This is a focus on Luis Guerrero. He was 41 years old when he was killed. He died when a broken forklift fell on him. He was set to start a new job with a different company the following week before he died. Next slide, please. This is Recology Brisbane worker Alfredo Romero. He was 61. He was killed in May 2025. There's very little information about his passing on the job there. Next slide, please. This is Alco San Leandro facility worker Alberto Anaya, who was 63 years old when he was killed in June 2017. He was crushed to death by a large screw conveyor machine that caught on a floor crack and collapsed on him. Next slide, please. This is Upper Valley Disposal Clover Flat landfill workers in Napa County who was killed on the job in 2013. He was 45 years old, run over by a garbage truck. The Cal OSHA report differed greatly from eyewitnesses and coworkers on the scene. So the San Francisco Regional Water Board is one of the primary oversight agencies of these problematic Bay Area waste sites and have boots on the ground inspectors whose reports are deferred to by other public agencies and thus have significant responsibility to the public to examine all information and evidence presented on these matters. Next slide, please. This is the problems in the waste industry moved beyond the Bay Area. This is a Latino waste worker who was killed at the Alco Stockton facility, Ray Alfaro. He was 31 years old, crushed to death by 4,000 pounds of wire. Next slide, please. And in the Bakersfield area in 2012, two brothers perished inhaling hydrogen sulfide at a recycling center in 2012. It must be recognized that Latino waste workers are included in the general public that the water boards are mandated to protect, and many waste worker concerns that are not being recognized due to breakdowns in the Cal OSHA process include large-scale wastewater-related contamination incidents, including fires where runoff can affect public water quality, as well as long-term exposures to toxic leachate, which is garbage wastewater, and other worksite conditions leading to water quality impacts. Next slide, please. This is the 2024-2025 Cal OSHA audit showing significant deficiencies in the Cal OSHA processes, weaknesses in inspections, with only 17% of valid complaints inspected on site in the 2023-24 year. There have been problems in enforcement and fines, severe staffing shortages. Next slide, please. This is the August 27-25 California Assembly Senate Joint Oversight Hearing on the Cal OSHA process deficiencies. This was called for by Committee Chair Assemblyperson Liz Ortega, who asked, when do you decide that it's time to hold an employer accountable? Is it after the first death? Is it the second death? Is it after the third death? Ortega asked. What's important about looking at the waste industry, all sectors are focused on in the OSHA hearing, but the waste industry, many of these companies have government contracts, which should hold them to a higher standard, as well as deal with more dangerous materials than many industries. That's why the waste industry is really important to focus on. Next slide, please. This is Alco deaths and citations. This is this company, Alco, with 3 deaths in the last 8 years compared with other metal recyclers. They had 3 deaths with 200 employees compared to another company that had 4,000 employees and only one death. Other large metal recyclers had no deaths. Next slide, please. The following are photographs of documents of large-scale fires, contamination incidents, and violations at Alco facilities, Recology Brisbane, and Upper Valley Disposal Service, Clover Flat Landfill in the Napa Valley. Next slide, please. All of these facilities are in the jurisdiction of the San Francisco Bay Regional Water Quality Control Board and all with significant environmental, water quality, and public safety impacts. These are just a small sample of the photographs and documents available that provide the evidence of the systemic problems in the waste industry, and many of the complaints of the employees are just not coming forward, and we believe the Water Board needs a portal to hear those complaints, as we're saying the OSHA system is broken. And the point is, when the worker concerns don't come forward, there's a larger public safety and environmental risk to the entire community. Next slide, please. This is the Recology Brisbane 2025 fire. Next slide. Recology Brisbane Fire 2018. Next slide, please. This is an Upper Valley Disposal Service Napa County Fire in 2024. Next slide, please. These are many fires at Upper Valley Disposal and Clover Flat landfill between 2020 and 2022. Numerous fires occurred where you can see this truck fire. That's in a high wildfire risk area that Clover Flat landfill is in. Next slide, please. This is a document showing the severity of glass fire impacts. That was a wildfire that burned Clover Flat landfill. The company did not acknowledge that the landfill burned, and the public was never warned of the burning landfill, though the toxic leachate, methane, and oil and paint storage systems were burned, or storage were burned. Next slide, please. This is a toxic leachate pond at Clover Flat landfill in the area where there's a further document. You'll see there's a district attorney settlement for $6.6 million with Clover Flat landfill for toxic discharges. On the right, we can see untrained landfill workers having to engage with a live wildfire and clean up toxic fire debris without training or personal protective equipment. Next slide, please. This is the Upper Valley Disposal Service St. Helena site. You can see a chemical spill here. There's a leachate pond along with the garbage truck washing facility. At this site, the Regional Water Board in internal memos said that this site only took in organic materials, which is clearly not the case. And also, it's been said that by the Regional Water Board that they did an adequate investigation, but that investigation did not include the concerns or complaints of the employees or the neighbors. And that's why we want to have this re-looked at. Next slide, please. Here are Alco, San Leandro, and Vallejo fires, 2025, 2015. Next slide, please. Alco, Vallejo, 1990s violations of lead exposure, 17 violations to employees and their families. Next slide, please. This is an Alco timeline showing the fatalities from 2017 to 22, 3 fatalities, also violations, a crane accident, propane tank explosion, an employee having 2 fingers amputated. Next slide, please. This is the Alameda County District Attorney, civil settlement of $750,000 against Alco. Next slide, please. This is Brisbane Recology, total penalties at Recology since 20,000, $144 million. Next slide, please. This is a document of an employee at Upper Valley Disposal Service in Clover Flat, quite ill from radiation exposure and might need to be sent out of state for treatment. Next slide, please. This is the Upper Valley Clover Flat settlement for $6.6 million related to a large-scale contamination incident. The employees were never acknowledged in this settlement. Next slide, please. This is a slide about metal recycling being one of the most hazardous sectors in the county. Of the over 5,000 workplace deaths reported in the agency, 484 were in waste management and remediation, which includes scrap metal recycling. Next slide, please. As I said, are we out of time? I'm sorry, I didn't see the time.
Yeah, apologies, Mr. Ellsworth. We've hit the 10 minutes now.
Yeah, my apologies for going over. I just wanted to make sure that these points were brought forward and hope that the Water Board can work with us to find a way to bring these concerns forward that are not being heard through the OSHA portal. Thank you.
Thank you as well, Mr. Ellsworth. And I'll be circling back with the Regional Water Quality Control Board. And again, I do appreciate you coming here and elevating your concerns. But we'll work through the regional board and just again appreciate your time and the opportunity here to hear further about these concerns. So thank you.
Very much appreciated.
All right, now I'd like to call up Ray Tahir for public forum, be followed by Robert Mattonelli, and then we have one additional commenter, Maggie Hallahan.
Good morning, Board. Next slide, please. At the last meeting, Chair Esquivel criticized me for accusing Chief Counsel Lawfer of being untruthful. In fact, he has been untruthful on 2 occasions. First, at the December 18, 2024 meeting, Mr. Lawfer said, the legislature has expressly made the general order disclosure requirements that were added in Water Code Section 13287 applicable to NPDES permits that are general permits. This is patently false. The legislature did no such thing. Mr. Lawfer is the one singularly responsible for adding that language to 13287 without legislative approval or state board approval. A few months later, and as I mentioned, Mr. Lawfer admitted to this by saying that he had added the following to 13287, which you're familiar with this passage. Next slide, please. Mr. Lawfer said it was intended to aid the reader to understand general order and disclosure requirements, which it clearly did not. The real reason was to make up for the fact that it used general orders on multiple occasions and multiple documents issued by his office that were not legally adopted. His Q&A on ex parte is an excellent example. Mr. Lawfer also said that the addition of the bracketed definition aid is mentioned in the pamphlet presented on the front page of Port of Cologne. It is not. It's another lie. Bottom line, Mr. Lawfer broke the law. It was only when I called on him adding the bracketed definition at the August 5th, 2025 board meeting that he offered the excuse that it was intended to be an aid. Mr. Lawfer also admitted that the addition was not part of the code. However, as I mentioned at the last meeting, anyone looking at 13287 would have to conclude that the bracketed definition was not integrated with the rest of the code. I believe Mr. Lawfer was counting on this. Consequences. It is clear that Mr. Lawfer broke the law, which constitutes gross misconduct and possibly fraud. The question is, what does this board intend to do about it? If it does nothing, it risks being complicit. Next slide, please. Second, Mr. Lawfer lied, claiming that I had made a public records request at the August 5th, 2025 meeting. I told him he was mistaken. I made no such request. He responded in an email dated August 19th, 2025, saying there was no mistake in my email from Friday. During your last board presentation, you stated you would like any document from my office meeting certain criteria. Since public records requests can be made orally or in writing, I treated your request for the documents as a public records request. This is a really bizarre response. How could he conclude that I made a public records request without me making one? Mr. Lawfer has some issues. Next slide, please. Speaking of Democratic Club's public records act requests, as I mentioned at the last meeting, Chief Counsel ignored 4 separate public records requests submitted to Assistant Chief Counsel Philip Wiles. The request was made by the Gardena Valley Democratic Club, initially on August 8th, then on August 28th, then on September 10th, and then on September 22nd. In so doing, Chief Counsel Lawfer and Assistant Wiles violated the Public Records Act by not acknowledging receipt of the request. Another thing, Mr. Lawfer ignored Government Section 11125.7, which addresses ex parte communication that was included in SB 965 Legislative Digest. It says, except as otherwise provided in this section, the state body shall provide an opportunity from members of the public to directly address the state body on each agenda item before or during the state body's discussion or consideration of the item. Given that 13287 is likely to be voided by the legislature, Section 11125.7 should be applied to general permits, namely all stormwater permits being considered by the Water Board. It should also obviate the need for APA Section 4.5's application to MS4 and other stormwater permits. Next slide, please. Another reason 13287 must be voided is that it is constitutionally vague, as I mentioned previously. According to an excerpt from Wikipedia on vagueness doctrine, in American constitutional law, a statute may be void for vagueness and enforceable if it is too vague for the average citizen to understand what acts or duties are required or restricted. Here's where vagueness comes in regarding 13287. We could forget that paragraph and go down to A. The action does not identify specific discharges, but instead allows persons to enroll or file authorization to discharge under the action. The vagueness is obvious. Who are the persons to enroll? What is an authorization to discharge under the action? What is the definition of action in this context? Next slide, please. And we're at the end of the trail. So what I encourage this board to do, it needs to notify Ledge Council and the Committee on Environmental Water Quality to rescind 13287. Thank you very much for your patience. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Tahir. Our next commenter will be Robert Mattioli.
Members of the board.
Good morning.
My name is Robert Mattioli, and I'm having problems submitting my annual stock monitoring reports for rangeland property in Calaveras County. There is no home on the property. I understand that there are issues with your new system. 2 of my stock ponds are under 10 acre-feet, and they go dry at the end of the summer. I take visual measurements. I request that you go back to the IRIM short form. My 3rd stock pond is under 25 acre-feet, and I have an engineered 5-foot interval contour map with estimated volumes for every 5-foot interval. I take visual readings in October and November before the rains when the water level is low, then in April after the rains. I can estimate the volume of water captured in this pond using this method, using contour maps instead of a monitoring water level monitoring device. There is no electricity available at any of these ponds. I am here to submit my 3 stock ponds monitoring reports because I can't submit through your new system. I used the old IRIMS format, and I request that you review the board's policy on requiring monitoring for stock ponds under 10 acre-feet. Essentially, they are constructed vernal pools. They go dry. Is the data you receive from these small ponds really necessary to set and implement policy? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mattioli. And what we'll make sure and have our staff do is follow up with you from the Division of Water Rights to work personally with you around your issues. And I know we have staff
I've
here.
already been in contact,
Okay,
and
we have.
the person has been exceptionally helpful.
Okay, well, good. Well, then thank you for addressing the board here with your concerns this morning, and
Yeah.
just thank you. All right, next I'd like to call up Maggie Hallahan.
Hello. Thank you so much for all the work you do there at the board. Good morning. Could I share screen, or is that not okay in this?
It's not allowed. Unfortunately, if there were images you would like to share, they needed to get over to the clerk of the board.
Okay,
We have the system locked down for.
Well, I'll definitely, yes, I understand. I'll definitely do that next time, and I'm going to submit an update after this first initial. This is new, maybe new information for you. I've submitted a letter to you today that is including a letter that I've been working with San Francisco Water Board and with the Regional Water Board for the area. And I'm a San Francisco Sea Scout leader. I work with youth on the water, and I'm concerned that we're not doing enough water testing, especially with new areas like India Basin and new areas inside of San Francisco Marina. And my response has been showing a gap in the different regional water boards on doing REC 1 and REC 2 testing. So I would love to get any type of person within your statewide community to, if there is someone that creates a protocol for all water entry areas for stand-up boards, kayaking, swimming, places where you have water contact. And I would like to get more of a statewide review. I did go to Southern California and find some areas where the regional area there is very involved. So anyway, my kids, our kids, all of our kids are in the water, and I think it's really important to find out exactly where the oversight is. So anything you can do to help me, or any staff you have that could contact me to help inform me in my area. Thank you very much.
Thank you as well, Ms. Hallahan. Really appreciate you addressing the board this morning with your concerns, and definitely will ensure that we have folks reach out. What comes to mind certainly are that we do need to have a better focus oftentimes on just ambient monitoring, and especially when it comes to contact recreation. I think there are opportunities for us to do better with and here our regional water quality control boards are lead, but as you noticed, there can be varying degrees of programs being implemented at that local level. So we'll definitely connect with you, and thank you for elevating your concerns and addressing the board this morning.
Thank you very much. You guys have a great day.
You too. Thank you. All right, that wraps up public forum, and thank you everyone for the time and patience. It is important for the board to be able to hear from folks on items not calendared before the board. All right, that now brings us to our first item of board business, which is consideration of the board meeting minutes from the November 18th board meeting. I do see that there is one commenter that has put in their name for the board meeting minutes. I don't believe individuals on. Okay, so we will just carry on. Looking to fellow board colleagues if there are any adjustments, amendments to the meeting minutes, and otherwise, ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion for item 1.
I'll second.
Thank you both. Ms. Tyler, can you please call a roll call vote?
Board Member Morgan,
Aye.
Board Member Firestone,
Aye.
Board Member McGuire,
I'll abstain.
and Chair Esquivel.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you as well. Board meeting minutes are adopted, and it brings us to our 2 uncontested items, which they are both, I believe, coming off because we do have one commenter for item number 2, which is consideration of proposed resolution adopting revisions to the water management measurement regulations. And then also item number 3, I believe staff wanted to do a presentation. So we will go on to item number 2. Morning.
Good morning, Chair Esquivel, members of the board. My name is Lindsay Kammeyer, Senior Water Resource Control Engineer with the Division of Water Rights Drought Planning Unit. With me today are Ciara Kennison from the Division of Water Rights and Samantha Olson and Dave Rose from the Office of Chief Counsel. When we were last before the board in August, we agreed that this would not be the last time we revised this regulation to improve our water rights reporting data. However, I don't think any of us realized how soon we'd be before you again. Today, we'll briefly present the minor additional proposed changes to the water measurement and reporting regulation, often referred to as SB 88. We're asking you to adopt the draft resolution that has been circulated, which approves the proposed regulation text and allows staff to submit the final rulemaking package to the Office of Administrative Law. The division officially started the rulemaking process this past February when we were before the board for an information item. As noted during that presentation, our unit has been doing public engagement on the measurement regulation for over 2 years. While today might feel like the culmination of our efforts, this is really one more step towards better data to help us implement water rights, manage public trust resources, and provide better data to the public. Next slide, please. Focusing on the draft resolution and proposed regulation revisions before you today. First, we'll cover the rulemaking update, where we'll provide some regulation background, the purpose of the revisions, and the rulemaking timeline to date. Then we'll briefly describe the proposed changes and the regulation effective dates. Finally, we'll describe next steps. Next slide, please. I'll provide some background about the existing regulation and why an update is needed. Next slide, please. Our existing diversion measurement regulations originate from legislation passed during the historic 2012 to 2016 drought. This legislation directed the board to adopt these requirements by emergency regulation. The measurement and reporting regulations have been in effect since 2016. Since 2018, anyone authorized to divert more than 10 acre-feet per year has been required to measure and report their diversions and submit their data as an attachment to their annual reports. More granular and timely data can improve the board's and diverters' ability to forecast and prepare for limited water supplies, facilitate water transfers, petitions, new applications, and flood recharge, and protect senior water right holders. Unfortunately, compliance with the measurement and reporting requirements has been low. This update makes requirements clear and will hopefully improve compliance. Next slide, please. The proposed rulemaking revises the regulation with the primary goals of improving data quality and improving clarity. This includes specifying what parameters need to be measured and standardizing data submission formats, improving machine readability, and aligning with the new CalWater's reporting platform. This will also ensure that the data received through weekly submissions and in end-of-year data files can be better used for decision-making. The update also uses refined definitions and clearer language to improve overall readability. Next slide, please. Board staff issued the initial notice that started the rulemaking process on February 28th. We had held an initial public comment period lasting 54 days, including a public APA hearing and two subsequent 15-day comment periods for changes and included changes to the proposed text based on public feedback. On the August 5th board meeting, the board approved a resolution adopting the revisions to the 3 chapters listed on this slide. Board staff submitted the rulemaking package to OAL mid-August, and OAL staff flagged a couple of concerns with the text of Chapter 2.8 related to clarity and consistency. OAL approved the changes to Chapters 2 and 2.7 related to groundwater recordations and email requirements. Those went into effect September 26, 2025. Board staff withdrew Chapter 2.8 diversion measurement requirements for further refinements. In accordance with the APA, board staff noticed these additional changes on October 30th for public comment. Board staff expect that with these modest additional refinements, the Chapter 2.8 updates will better meet the APA standards for clarity and consistency and be approved by OAL. The biggest change is that due to making the text changes for clarity and consistency, the implementation dates for the Chapter 2.8 updates will need to be pushed back to the following water year. Despite not being the board's preferred timeline, this delay is expected to improve initial outreach and compliance. Next slide, please. And with that, I'll pass it to my colleague Sierra to describe the reg text in more detail.
Thank you, Lindsay. And good morning, board members. My name is Sierra Kennison, and I'm a Water Resource Control Engineer with the Division of Water Rights. Next slide, please. As Lindsay mentioned earlier, we received feedback from the Office of Administrative Law that language in several sections of Chapter 2.8 should be revised to eliminate potential clarity issues, so we decided to withdraw and resubmit Chapter 2.8 to incorporate these changes. Namely, OAL identified the potential for threshold adjustments as being misinterpreted as applying statewide instead of applying to select watersheds, and also recommended adding language on how notices of any threshold adjustment would be issued. Additionally, OAL identified 2 locations where the process for deputy director approvals could be better described: the approval of qualified individual courses in Section 931, and the approval of alternate websites for posting large diversion data in Section 935. While the changes made to address these issues are relatively minor, we're bringing them back to the board for adoption today because the resulting change in implementation schedule necessitated by the other modifications could be considered more than minor. Next slide, please. Importantly, the new changes to the regulation text do not result in any new requirements or burden on the diverters. Firstly, regarding the provision that allows the deputy director to approve additional websites for posting large diversion data, we've listed the specific criteria that the deputy director will consider in making their decision. Note that the purpose of this provision has not changed. It is still meant for the approval of websites that many users can access, as opposed to individual diverters' custom websites. Also, we've added additional clarity to Section 938, which describes the Deputy Director's authority to adjust measurement thresholds and submission schedules. The updates to this section clarify how any adjustments will be noticed for public comment before being issued. And finally, since the initially proposed effective date of October 1st, 2025 has passed, we've pushed back the effective dates of most requirements to align with the beginning of next water year. This will give diverters additional time to adjust to the updates to the regulation. So on the next slide, we'll take a minute to walk through a timeline of each of these dates. So until October 2026, the requirements of the existing regulation will remain in effect. The updated measurement requirements, which will specify which data to collect, those will take effect in October 2026, the start of water year 2027. Data collected in water years 2025 and water years 2026, so measurements taken through September of next year, those will be reported according to the existing requirements. The first annual report, where data will be submitted according to the updated requirements, will not be due until January 2028. For large diversion requirements, formerly known as telemetry, again, the updated measurement requirements will not take effect until next October, and the updated submission requirements, which require posting to Cal Waters or another approved website, those will not take effect until October 2027 in order to incorporate a more phased implementation. And then next January 2027, diverters will need to register any of their measuring devices and submit documentation about how they're measuring. But again, annual reports due in January 2027 will still include data submission under the existing requirements. Next slide, please. There are two new documents available on our rulemaking website: a copy of the updated regulation text showing the changes made since the previous public comment period, and a plain language summary of these changes. All of the previously released regulatory documents are still available, and they are organized by their publication date, and you can access the site using the link at the bottom of this slide or using the QR code in the upper corner. Next slide, please. None of the newly proposed changes impose any additional costs beyond those that we presented in August, so the total statewide impact of this regulation is still below $10 million, well short of the $50 million threshold for major regulations. And similarly, the updated regulation still falls within several CEQA categorical exemptions, and if the board adopts the proposed resolution today, division staff will file a CEQA exemption to the state clearinghouse. Next slide, please. If the board adopts the proposed resolution today, division staff will submit the rulemaking package to the Office of Administrative Law in the coming weeks. We plan to request an early effective date of February 1st, 2026, and this will ensure that the regulation is in place and consistent with our outreach efforts. But again, I want to emphasize that the updated measurement requirements will not take effect until October 2026. After the regulation is filed with the Secretary of State and added to the California Code of Regulations, the division will launch an outreach campaign that includes a workshop, updated guidance materials, one-on-one compliance assistance meetings. Our goal is to really educate diverters on the revised regulation and to improve compliance. Next slide, please. The division will continue to update our rulemaking page, which is the upper link shown on this slide, as additional materials become available. And then our measurement reporting website, noted in the middle of this slide, that will be updated with the new requirements and all new guidance materials as well. So the first link here is just about the rulemaking. The second link is about the regulation itself. And staff are also available to assist the public via our measurement email inbox shown here or through the phone number shown on the screen. Thank you for your time this morning. We'd like to recommend to the board that you adopt the proposed resolution. After any questions, comments, and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kennison. Looking quickly to the dais in case there's any comments from board members. And then otherwise, we have one commenter, Zach Castanolga Johnson.
Good morning, Chair Esquivel and members of the board, and thank you for the opportunity to submit public comments today. My name is Zach Hastignola Johnson. I'm an attorney with BKS Law Firm here in Sacramento. Our firm represents numerous water right holders throughout California, including several that operate reservoirs that fall within the revised regulations definition of large diversions. Along with my colleague Ryan Becerra, I have submitted multiple rounds of comments on the proposed regulations, and I was here back in August to submit oral public comments on the draft revisions. It's good to see you again. Overall, our firm was very pleased with the revisions to Chapter 2.8. We were especially glad to see that these revisions include a more flexible implementation schedule. However, we also believe that some additional clarifications remain necessary, which is why our firm submitted written comments and is why I'm here today. Next slide, please. I have two comments for you today. First, we suggest clarifying some of the updated language in section 935. As written, next slide, please. As written, shown here on the screen, the bolded language, specifically the verb leaves, is ambiguous as to whether reported values in large diversion submissions must reflect data associated with water exiting a reservoir due to a natural process like evaporation or an operational process like water supply releases. Even if we assume that the verb leaves is describing an operational process, the regulation does not further distinguish between a withdrawal or release from a reservoir. So consequences of this ambiguity are predictable. For example, should we have another water year like 2023 with major storms and flooding, we may see new executive orders like EO N723 and N423 for flood diversions. Under Section 935B1D, in this emergency situation, diverters would need to be measuring and reporting huge quantities of water not associated with a water right. Similarly, a diverter releasing flood flows for groundwater recharge under Water Code Section 1242.1, which are also not associated with a water right, might be required to report and measure all of that water. To eliminate this ambiguity, next slide, please. We suggest that the text be revised as shown on the screen. Eliminate the verb leaves both times that it appears, replace it with the phrase is withdrawn or released from, and add the phrase pursuant to claimed water rights of the diverter. Next slide, please. Our second comment today is on Section 939. While we very much appreciate the added flexibility for diverters in the proposed revisions, parts of the revised Section 939 remain unclear. Specifically, the addition of two new subdivisions appears to contradict other parts of Section 939 and the State Board's messaging around these and earlier revisions, and thereby makes it a little more difficult for diverters to understand what will be immediately required of them when these revisions are adopted. Next slide, please. The way we read it, the new section 939.4E is confusing because it would accelerate rather than delay the timeline for installing measuring devices consistent with the updated regulations. As you can see on the screen, 939.4E states that a measuring device installed on or after the effective date of the amendments to this chapter must be installed in accordance with sections 939, 933, and 934, which are the full updated regulations. This seems to be inconsistent with the language in section 939.1. Next slide, please. As shown here on the screen, you can see, again, it's reiterating something that the staff just said, which is that these requirements take place in water year 2026, and 939 represents interim requirements. Next slide, please. And then looking at some of the educational materials sent out by the board, this is the summary of October 2025 changes to proposed regulation text. In this table, it states that in October 2026, that's when the requirement to begin measuring in accordance with the new regulation will take effect. So there hasn't been a mention of an exception to this requirement in any of the, as it applies to the maintenance and operation of measuring devices in any of the board's educational materials. So we're just a little bit confused. To be clear, we understand the logic of the addition of section 939.4E. We just don't understand why it's necessary to add this when the full revised regulations take effect in October. This only makes interim compliance more confusing, especially for smaller diverters. Also confusing is section 939.4F. Next slide, please. This section adds a brand new enforcement mechanism specific to measuring devices. As shown on the screen, 939.4F states in part that failure to timely repair or replace a measuring device that does not comply with the accuracy requirements of subdivision D of this section is a violation of this regulation. This also seems inconsistent with the state board's messaging that these newest revisions to the regulations are intended to give diverters extra time to understand their new requirements, and that enforcement of the new regulations was not going to be an immediate priority. Adding these sections to the interim requirements creates confusion about which requirements begin immediately upon adoption of the new regulations and which are delayed until October 2026. To eliminate confusion, we suggest that the state board remove the proposed sections 939.4E and F. At the very least, our main concern here is clarity. So we would just request that state board staff provide a detailed compliance checklist for water year 2026, and that'll help us ensure and our client diverters ensure that they can comply with this regulation as they very much want to do so. Thank you so much. That concludes BKS Law Firm's comments, and we thank you again for the chance to comment on these draft revised regulations. Appreciate your time.
Thank you as well. Really appreciate the great engagement on this project and the comments here. Looking to our folks, some of it sounds like perhaps it's something that through just guidance and implementation we can address, but wanting to hear from you all kind of what your sense is.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for BKS's comments. So for the first comment that they made, that is focused really on the provisional weekly data that we're getting. So we're really just trying to get a broad sense of what water is where, specifically thinking about trying to parse it by water right. We've heard from other commenters that they appreciate not having it parsed by water right because doing that on a weekly basis is difficult or impossible to do given how many diverters calculate storage. So again, the language was intended to simplify requirements and make it clear that this is a broader sense. If there is something specific that folks want to do that is divergent from the regulations, they can also submit an alternative compliance plan if they want to parse out their data and be more specific there. We're also happy to work with folks one-on-one as well if they have any issues. For the second item about new devices, what BKS pointed out was really that new devices must comply with the new requirements. Existing devices already installed, they can continue on the existing requirements until a new point in time. We're not expecting most folks to have to install a new device because of these regulation changes, but if you happen to install a new device, then essentially trying to get people to start out on the right foot and say that it's like, okay, installing a new device has to comply with the new regulations rather than saying, oh, and after installing it just for a few months, comply the old way and then comply the new way. We, as staff, assumed that would be more confusing, but are happy to work with folks if they are installing new devices and have any issues or with understanding what their requirements are. And also appreciate the third comment about needing clarification on what exactly is required for water year 26. And right now we have helped the Cal Waters team issue some guidance on how exactly folks submit their diversions this year, their measurement data via Cal Waters, and we plan to do that in the subsequent following water years as well. Appreciate that things are changing, the system is new, and want to make sure that folks are able to comply with the requirements and that we assist people as much as possible.
Appreciate that. And, here would recommend, and I know we have a website up and are planning on developing, continued guidance into the year, but really focusing on, on this current water year and what reporting requirements folks are needing to comply. Maybe just some very clear and easy list for the site would be helpful. On the first point, when it comes to, the ambiguity of the word leaves, and again, a desire, is the intent to, for it to really capture what our operational release is, or, is it evapotranspiration as was brought up, or because I can see where, again, leaves is quite leaves some ambiguity there. And again, to the extent that, further guidance documents are being developed or further clarity, maybe it's on the back end that can be done and not necessarily reg text change that's needed.
So I think the simple answer is that if leaves were standing alone, it could be considered ambiguous, but the sentence before it, sorry, the words before it in the sentence are talking about where you measure. So I don't think there's any possibility that we'd be asking anybody to be measuring evaporation or anything like that. So I think that being more specific with withdrawal or release is probably going to cause a different kind of confusion. So leaves is just one of several examples in that sentence of where you measure. So we think it can be clear or is clear. And if people have questions, we can certainly work with them.
Appreciate that. Looking to fellow board colleagues if they have comment. Board Member McGuire.
Yeah, thank you. Just a follow-up question on that section. Um, the other comment, so appreciate the clarification about evaporation and being more specific that it's related to water that's released in some fashion from the reservoir. But and also the intent to simplify the reporting because it's based on weekly reporting. But nonetheless, there are different types of reasons for releasing water from a reservoir. So what happens in the situation where it is a flood control release or it is an exempt release for groundwater recharge under those same provisions? Do the reporters provide that information or indicate that type of activity is taking place? How do you handle that in this reporting scheme?
Release is defined in the regulation as all water flowing out of the reservoir, all downstream outflow. So I think that would include flood releases.
Okay, so just we're going to have that information reported on a weekly basis. It's going to be very high level in that respect. So there will be no water right level specific breakdown to that data.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I think the comment about, well, I'm going to use flood release for groundwater recharge, and that's not a water right. I think the old reg was looking for how much water is leaving the reservoir, period. And we heard the comments that it's impossible to parse out where it's going precisely when you're measuring in that almost real-time basis. And so trying to do anything else but everything leaving the reservoir, I'm not even sure you could do that.
I'll add that one of the paragraphs right before that was referencing subparagraph B1D, but B1B specifically says that the large diversion measurement data submitted under this subdivision do not need to be apportioned for each claimed water right. So this is consistent with that. That's not what we're looking for on this one. It's not water rights tracking on a weekly basis. This is large scale what's going on in the reservoirs.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I think it made sense to sort of repeat the discussion I know that we had back in August on these similar topics. And so I think that's right in a quasi real-time sense that we're not going to be able to distill down those different components of the water, although at some point that will have to be addressed. So thank you for the clarification. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you, board member. Yeah, I think, the goal is certainly for just a mass balance sort of understanding on a more real-time basis, weekly at this point, and hopefully serves as a good tool for us as we continue to try to manage our resources here. Looking to fellow board colleagues, if there's any further comment or question. Seeing none, we may be prepared for a motion.
I'll move to adopt the resolution.
I'll second.
Thank you both. Ms. Tyler, can you call roll call vote?
Board Member McGuire,
Aye.
Board Member Morgan,
Aye.
Board Member Firestone,
Aye.
and Chair Esquivel.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you as well. The vote is unanimous and the resolution is adopted. Thank you. We really appreciate the good work, and I know a lot more work to go. So thank you. All right. We will now transition to item number 3, where we'll quickly hear consideration of a proposed resolution adopting the 2025 Safe Drinking Water Plan and authorizing the executive director or designee to submit the plan to the California legislature. We'll give a moment for folks to swap out.
Morning, Chair Esquivel.
Morning.
Darren Plamas, Deputy Director for the Division of Drinking Water. We thank you for allowing us to do just a quick presentation and one more sales job for the state water, safe drinking water plan that we put together every 5 years. I think it's just was nice to be able to put on the record that we did get comments and that we did kind of respond to those, and this is our opportunity. We're definitely not going to repeat the larger presentation we gave back at the workshop. We're just going to focus on the kind of the response to comments. And so for that, with me here today is Bob Brownwood. He helped lead our large team of staff that worked on that. And then for the presentation today, we should have online Lawrence Sanchez, who was our definitely staff lead and spirit behind this update of this year. So Mr. Sanchez, if you're ready to go.
Yes, good morning. Sound check, everyone can hear me?
We can. Good morning.
Good morning, board chair and members of the board. I will provide a brief overview of the plan as well as summarize the plan's recommendations, division's milestones and initiatives completed in the last 5 years, as well as provide a look forward on some of the division's continuing goals and initiatives. The division is requesting the board adopt the draft resolution authorizing the submittal of the plan to legislature in accordance with Health and Safety Code Section 116355. The Division of Drinking Water presented the plan in detail, as Darren noted, at the July 15th workshop. The draft document has been posted on the State Water Board website since July 7th, and public comment period closed on August 29th. For those that would like the high-level review of the 2025 plan, the board website contains a video link to the July presentation along with the downloadable slides. The plan also includes an executive summary. The link to the website will be shared on the last slide. Next slide, please. The purpose of the presentation is to provide a few highlights of the plan and recommend adoption of the plan. The plan contains both analytical as well as encyclopedic information about California's drinking water systems and related regulatory programs. In part, the encyclopedic detail provides the necessary background for legislatures and stakeholders to understand the framework in which public water systems operate, to develop legislation and other tools in support of safe and accessible drinking water for all Californians. What is the purpose of the Safe Drinking Water Plan? Broadly speaking, it includes these elements: assesses California's drinking water quality, looks at specific problems and health risks to the public, and discusses actions the State Water Board is undertaking to address these issues. Most importantly, the plan contains our best case for specific recommendations to improve drinking water quality. I will note that the plan compiles program accomplishments and various documents completed by DDW over the last 5 years, providing a foundation of the information presented in the plan, as well as the basis for the plan's recommendations to improve safe drinking water for all communities. Next slide, please. Although not a legal requirement, as part of its 2025 Safe Drinking Water Plan development, the division released a draft of the 2025 plan for public comment. Public comments were considered and incorporated into the final 2025 Safe Drinking Water Plan. Since the primary purpose of the plan is to provide recommendations to the legislature, public water systems, and other stakeholders to improve drinking water in California, a sortable Excel file was created and uploaded to the website to assist readers in reviewing and sorting of the recommendations as Appendix 10 of the plan. The comments and any related revisions were all non-substantive. Where relevant, the comments were discussed with commenters, shared internally with other divisions, or otherwise incorporated into the plan. The final 2025 Safe Drinking Water Plan, along with comments and responses as Appendix 11, will be posted on the website following board adoption. Next slide, please. The Safe Drinking Water Plan contains 70+ specific recommendations meant to highlight areas for legislative action, as well as opportunities to support program action by the State Water Board stakeholders and by public water systems. Stepping back, our recommendations cut across capacity building, technology, financing, and emergency preparedness. In general, the recommendations include support for sustainable communities with improvements to existing tools like consolidation, water partnerships, mutual aid, and the assessment and development of technical, financial, and managerial capacity. Similarly, the plan discusses current and needed investments in technology and data management tools to support important initiatives, including local planning coordination, transparency and public-facing dashboards, as well as the continued development of treatment and analytical methods. There are several recommendations regarding financial health and support of water systems, such as addressing the needs assessment funding gap, improved water system assessment, asset management planning, and collection of sustainable water rates. The plan closes with recommendations to support collaborative water system emergency preparedness and response, with focus on interagency coordination and cybersecurity. Many of the recommendations are extensions of those offered in the 2020 plan. Accordingly, it is worthwhile to highlight progress made since the 2020 plan. In the next few slides, I'm going to highlight some of the extensive accomplishments over the last 5 years. Though these slides contain many accomplishments we are proud of, I will discuss only a few. The appendices section contains a list of many of these accomplishments in Appendix 1, and Appendix 7 includes a status update on all the recommendations in the 2020 plan. These accomplishments and updates are also highlighted throughout the plan. Next slide, please. A lot has gone on since the 2020 plan. Here are some highlights. In 2025, we celebrated 50 years of the Safe Drinking Water Act, 10 years of the Drinking Water Program at the State Water Board, and 5 years of the SAFER program and related engagement efforts, including $73 million in technical assistance and $1 billion in financial assistance and numerous initiatives and water system engagement activities such as consolidation and administrator projects. Next slide, please. Throughout the plan, we highlight that consolidation and prevention of unsustainable water systems is a key initiative to upholding California's human right to water policy. In the 2025 plan, we are reporting 100 less systems overall since the 2020 plan, which accounts for about 170 consolidations, but also the creation of new systems. The impact of these ongoing and resource-intensive initiatives is reducing the number of Californians that lack access to safe drinking water roughly by half. Next slide, please. The next 4 slides highlight additional DDW program milestones and initiatives. This slide includes those of most interest to regional board and divisions, as well as those that will require staff and water system resources as part of ongoing implementation. Most importantly, these include the recent adoption of the federal PFAS maximum contaminant level, or MCL, California's own hex-chrome MCL, and direct potable reuse and proposed on-site treatment and reuse regulations, as well as ongoing review of the existing health protective regulations, such as best available technologies, other maximum contaminant levels, detection limits for the purpose of reporting, and notification and response levels. Collectively, the State Water Board has continued to advance California's human right to water policy through its climate and racial equity strategy and racial equity action plan. In 2024, the legislature provided the State Water Board new sewer system administrator authority to strengthen source water protection initiatives. And the State Water Board also completed phase 1 of the first ever wastewater needs assessment. Next slide, please. Some additional program milestones include additional regulations, reports, and program actions, such as several iterations of the annual updates to the SAFER needs and affordability assessments, report on point of use and entry devices to improve interim and permanent solutions, especially for non-regulated state small and domestic well water systems, various regulations enacted for conservation, shutoff protections, and almost $1 billion in arrearages funding program, and 36 expedited funding projects totaling approximately $175 million in state grant funds since 2023. The lead service line inventories and related initiatives, increased emphasis on drought resiliency planning, and looking forward, the initiation of TMF capacity requirements, which will be used to help support sustainable, healthy communities. Next slide, please. This slide highlights several tools and activities that have been completed which increase data transparency and accessibility, such as the new CLIP water quality portal, Aquifer Risk Map, and residential treatment device portals. Upgrades have also been made to the electronic annual report, GIS boundary tool, and the Safer Clearinghouse. There are also various improvements due to agency collaboration, legislative support, and program action in support of consolidation project management, including increased engagement and publication of water partnership success stories. Next slide, please. This slide highlights the division's compliance metrics and program activities that have been completed to support 98% of public water system customers statewide receiving water that meets standards. Between 2021 and 2024, these program actions include an equivalent of 9 division field office branch actions a day, such as permits or permit amendments, sanitary surveys, or enforcement actions. In addition, ELAP, or the Environmental Laboratory Accreditation Program, completed an equivalent of 11 program actions a week, such as laboratory accreditations, laboratory assessments, and laboratory enforcement actions. All these core activities were supported by over 2 million water quality samples collected, analyzed, processed, and reviewed per a year, which equates to 3 to 4 samples per minute statewide. Next slide, please. Though most Californians, about 98% of the population served by public water systems, are fortunate to have safe and reliable drinking water provided by capable public water systems, the promise of Safe Drinking Water Act has not been fully met. The other 2% of Californians served by public water systems have documented drinking water quality problems. Additionally, another estimated 4% of the population served by state small water systems or domestic wells is not regulated by DDW. The report references the ample documentation of the problem, as well as highlights the actions by the State Water Board and stakeholders to address these issues in the last 5 years. Going forward, the plan's recommendations lay the framework for program action and stakeholder support necessary to ensure the promise of Safe Drinking Water Act is upheld for all Californians. Since almost all water quality violations occur at systems with less than 500 connections, this slide highlights the division's priority to assist those Californians that are most at risk of receiving non-compliant drinking water over the next 5 years. First, the division is in the process of developing technical, managerial, and financial capacity regulations per Health and Safety Code 116600 and financial assurance regulations per Health and Safety Code 116375G. These initiatives will look into water systems' ability to sustainably operate and manage its system across operating conditions, as well as establish comprehensive requirements for review of system revenue and expenditure. In some counties, DDW has delegated its regulatory authority to local counties or local primary agencies, or LPAs, which oversee water systems with less than 200 connections. These systems represent 43% of both the total public water systems and the total violations statewide, and serve between 1% and 3% of the population. These LPAs may also oversee state small water systems and domestic well communities. Since 2021, the challenges of operating the LPAs has resulted in a return of primacy and related workload to DDW in 4 counties, marking a need for improved interagency collaboration and bolstering of county resources. 2025 marks the 5-year or halfway point of the initial 10 years approved by legislature of the SAFER program, and the plan contains an extensive summary of the tools being used daily to track and engage with failing and at-risk systems throughout the state. The incredible momentum created over the last 5 years will carry us forward as DDW continues to focus on expediting solutions for systems that are out of compliance with tools such as water partnerships, consolidation, administrators, technical assistance, as well as coordination with local land use planning to prevent the creation of small, unsustainable water systems, and an expanded focus on supporting non-regulated water systems like state small and domestic well communities. Next slide, please. Finally, I want to thank all the staff across the State Water Board that helped complete the 2025 Safe Drinking Water Plan. As a reminder, the link to the final plan and the related documents are provided on this slide and will be updated following board adoption. If that is the decision. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you as well, Mr. Sanchez. Appreciate the good leadership and work here, and for everyone that's contributed here to the plan. It's a great opportunity to, as you've done here, encapsulate what we've done, but importantly, just continue to direct our good work here on the drinking water side into the next years, which we know we have a lot of challenges. But it's a great compendium. It's a really important document here, and really appreciate the good work that's gone into it. Looking to my fellow board colleagues if they have any comments or thoughts, and then otherwise we may be ready to adopt the plan, or the resolution at least.
I'm happy to make a motion to adopt the resolution.
I'll second.
Thank you both. Ms. Tyler, can you please call a roll call vote?
Board Member Morgan,
Aye.
Board Member Firestone,
Aye.
Board Member McGuire,
Aye.
Chair Esquivel.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you as well. The vote is unanimous. The resolution is adopted, and the 5-year plan is on its way to the state legislature. Great work. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right. That now brings us to item number 4, which is current hydrologic conditions and response. Give a moment for folks to swap out. Good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning, Chair Esquivel and members of the board. My name is Abby Warner, and I'm an environmental scientist at the Division of Water Rights, and today I'll be going over the hydrologic update. Next slide, please. Accumulated precipitation for the water year as of November 29th is 152% of the historic average statewide. This is up about 18% from the beginning of November. We're still early in the water year, but this is good to see so far. In the short term, most water forecasts are showing a dry start to December, so we'll have to see how that develops. And next, we'll take a closer look at the precipitation indices. Next slide, please. In the Northern Sierra, the cumulative precipitation index is at 126% of average for December 1st, which is up from 93% on November 2nd. Just to give a quick explanation of this graph for anyone who isn't familiar, the current year cumulative precipitation in inches is shown as a blue line towards the bottom of this graph, which will also be the case for the next two. Next slide, please. In the San Joaquin, we're seeing 158% of average for December 1st, which is up from 112% on November 2nd. Next slide, please. In the Tulare Basin, we're currently seeing 166% of average cumulative precipitation so far for December 1st, which is down just slightly from 169% on November 2nd. Next slide, please. All of the major reservoirs are currently at or above average supply for this time of year. And statewide, our average major reservoir supply is at 114% of average. Next slide, please. There hasn't been any significant snowfall yet for water year 2025 to 2026, which is shown by the black line along the x-axis of the graph. We provided this graph today to show a comparison with the statewide average, which is shown in the blue shaded area, and last year's levels of snowpack, which are shown by the gray line. We'll provide regional breakdowns and future updates as appropriate. Next slide, please. So next we'll transition to the Scott and Shasta River watersheds. A more comprehensive update of the flow trends over the past year in both of these watersheds was provided at the November 4th board meeting, so I'll keep today's update pretty brief and focused on current conditions. Just as an overview, flows in both watersheds have remained above the minimum flow requirements. As of 8:30 a.m. yesterday, the flow at the Fort Jones gauge in the Scott River water was 212 cubic feet per second, or CFS, which is above the December minimum flow requirement of 150 CFS. Next slide, please. At the Wairika gauge in the Shasta River watershed, the flow was 169 CFS as of yesterday, which is above the December flow requirement of 125 CFS. As of November 26th, the Dwinelle Reservoir was 32% full, with a storage volume of 15,812 acre feet. Dwinelle Reservoir is refilling after reaching its lowest level this year on October 22nd, when the storage volume was 14,532 acre feet, or 29% full. Next slide, please. Finally, we have an update on the rollout of the California Water Accounting, Tracking, and Reporting System, or CalWaters. We recently completed mailing out letters to all primary owners and agents, so please send an email if you don't receive a letter by mid-December. That email address will appear on the next slide. So far, 3,100 user accounts have been created in CalWaters, and we're currently receiving about 100 help requests daily. So please expect an extended response time as we train staff to advise with questions about CalWaters. You can find additional guidance and resources online at the link shown at the bottom of the screen. Next slide, please. In addition, there have been and will continue to be public events held both in person and online regarding the CalWaters rollout. In November, there were 7 CalWaters events that were held, and you can find a list of the upcoming events on the screen here and more at the link shown on the slide. If you would like to hold an event in your area, please email calwaters-help@waterboards.ca.gov to set that up. You can also email with additional questions to that link. And that concludes my presentation today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Warner. Really appreciate it. And thanks to Association of California Water Agencies, the Farm Bureaus, when it comes to those webinars for the new Cal Water system, have just been just really appreciative of all the support folks have been giving us to try to help to make sure that we're reaching as many water right holders as possible. So thanks for that work. Yeah, off to a decent start to the water year, but it's dried out a bit on us here. And importantly, aren't receiving the snowpack yet that we know we are so dependent upon here. So we'll see how the water year continues to treat us week by week, month to month, and always appreciate the update here. Looking to fellow board colleagues, any questions, comments, things I'd like to see in further hydro updates? Hearing none currently. Thank you, Ms. Warner. Much appreciation. All right, that now brings us to item number 5. And just for planning purposes, we'll take a small break after item number 5 and then get to item number 6, I know our main event here. But as we transition to item number 5, I have a quick opening statement. In 2024, the state of California enacted Assembly Bill 460, which requires the State Water Resources Control Board to adjust water right civil liability or penalty amounts in Division 2 of the Water Code for inflation by January 1st, 2026 via regulation, and then by January 1st of each following year. AB 460 requires the board to adjust the civil liability or penalty amounts for inflation as established by the amount by which the California Consumer Price Index for the month of June of the prior year to the adjustment exceeds the CPI for June of the calendar year in which legislation was enacted, establishing or amending the maximum amount of the liability or penalty. State Water Board staff are prepared a presentation to address implementation of AB 460. Thank you for joining us. And if there was any lack of clarity in what I just said, we have an opportunity here with your presentation to make sure folks are understanding the legislation. Good to see you.
Thank you, Chair Esquivel. Board members, members of the public, esteemed colleagues. My name is Jason Grimm. I'm an attorney in the Office of Chief Counsel. I'm here to talk about Assembly Bill 460 today. With me today are Brian Coates from the Division of Water Rights and Ken Petrozelli from the Office of Enforcement. And yes, sorry for the kind of wordy opening statement there. It's a little bit of an awkward bill in terms of the wording. Next slide, please. Hopefully a short presentation for you all today. We'll introduce you to Assembly Bill 460, show you what implementation looks like, and then go over some proposed regulation inflation adjustments. Oh, and we have some name tags here. Next slide, please. So AB 460 was passed by the legislature in 2024 and signed by the governor. The key requirements is that the State Water Board adjust water rights civil penalty amounts, those that are actually in the Division 2 of the Water Code, for inflation by regulation. The first adjustments for inflation are required by January 1st, 2026, which is why we're here today in the December 2nd board meeting. And then there are annual adjustments required thereafter. The adjustment method is based on the California Consumer Price Index, and we use the CPI data from June of the prior year And for example, that means June 2025 for regulations taking effect on January 1st, 2026. Next slide, please. So the initial adjustment is a fairly straightforward process, even if the math can be a little bit confusing to follow initially. We compare the CPI data from June of 2025 to the CPI data from the year adopted, that the regulation was adopted, or sorry, the statute was adopted, or last amended by the legislature, whichever is more recent. We then develop a ratio and multiply the civil penalty amount by that ratio. Once we have that number, we round it depending on its size. So if it is less than $100, it's rounded to the nearest $10 increment. If it's between $100 and $1,000, it's to the nearest $100 increment. If it's between $1,000 and $10,000, it's to the nearest $1,000 increment. And if it's greater than $10,000, it's to the nearest $5,000 increment. A heads up, most penalties will be adjusted in this first year. I'll go into that a little bit more later. However, few adjustments are expected in subsequent years because with the rounding, they won't kind of reach the tip over point to round up to another number. Some years may have no adjustments. That's entirely possible next year and maybe even the year after, depending on inflation. Next slide, please. So here's our table 1, which shows the proposed in black water rights civil penalties compared to the red or current water rights civil penalties. And these are the rounded numbers. You'll notice that in the third column, which is dollars per day, there are a few that only have a black number because those numbers are not being adjusted. Those are the ones that are not going to tick over because the inflation has not been significant enough, or they've been adjusted by the legislature so recently that inflation is relatively minor. So increases across the board, more or less. Next slide, please. Here's an additional table showing some of the math, showing the CPI ratios, showing the date of last adopted or amended, the prior CPI, and then again, that ratio that the multiplication is used for. Next slide, please. So here's how the math works for section 1052, subdivision C2 of the Water Code. So to get the CPI ratio, we take the current CPI, and that is, again, the CPI from June of 2025, and divide that by the CPI when last adopted or amended. So for 1052C2, that is 352.044 divided by 140.1. That number, when divided, is 2.52. That's our ratio. We then multiply the ratio times our current water rights civil penalty amount of $500, and we get $1,260. That's our inflation adjusted amount. However, AB 460 requires us to round, and since it's between $1,000 and $10,000, we have to round to the nearest $1,000. And since 1260 is closer to 1,000 than it is to 2,000, the new civil penalty is $1,000 per day. Next slide, please. So here's a table of all of the water rights civil penalties in Division 2 of the Water Code that are being adjusted by, or proposed to be adjusted by this regulation, and what they actually are for. I will not read them all out because it's quite lengthy and I don't want to bore you. Next slide, please. So in our proposed regulation, there are adjustments to 7 different statutes. Those are Water Code sections 1052, 1845, 1846, 1846.5, 1847, and 5107. Separately, and under the executive director's signature, delegated authority, that is, we'll be doing clarity, changes without regulatory effect updates to Title 23, sections 908, 917, 932, 938, 986, and 1046 of the California Code of Regulations. These are to remove outdated water rights civil penalty numbers and not refer to a specific number anymore, just refer them to Water Code section 1846, which will then thereafter be adjusted for inflation. These are not being adopted by the board today, but just for context, they're included. Next slide, please. So next steps, adoption of this regulation is exempt from the requirements of Chapter 3.5 of Part 1 of Division 3 of Title 2 of the Government Code, also known as the Administrative Procedure Act. This means we do not have to submit anything to the Office of Administrative Law, and the board can adopt the regulation today by adopting the resolution. Once adopted, board staff will file the regulation with the California Secretary of State as required by the statute. And once filed with the Secretary of State, board staff will file a report on implementation with the legislature, also required by the statute. And the staff recommendation is to adopt the resolution and thereby adopting the regulation. And that's all from us.
Thank you. Much appreciation for the good work on this. Thanks to the legislature for providing this authority to the board. This is really helpful for us. It'll better peg, our penalties to inflation, ensure that they just continue to make sure that they're appropriate deterrent that they're meant to be. So really appreciate the work that's gone into it. Looking to fellow board colleagues in case there's question or comment. Seeing none further, we may be ready for a motion.
Okay, I'm happy to make a motion for item number 5.
A second.
Thank you both. Ms. Tyler, can you please call a roll call vote?
Board Member Morgan,
Aye.
Board Member McGuire,
Aye.
Board Member Firestone,
Aye.
and Chair Esquivel.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you as well. Resolution is adopted and the regulations then at once there. So much appreciation. Thanks for the good work and just thanks. All right.
Thank you very
That
much.
now brings us to our next item. But let's go ahead and give ourselves a 10-minute break and we'll then transition to our main event, if you will. So let's go ahead and bring ourselves back here at 10:45 and we'll start in on item number 6. Thank you all. Breath up here, right here in my shoulders and my neck, and my neck are always. All right, everyone, we're at 10:45. Thanks for the break. Hope everyone had a good break. We're now here on item number 6. Our next item is the consideration of a proposed resolution to return the Kauai groundwater subbasin back to the Department of Water Resources, consistent with the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. We're providing Spanish and Punjabi language interpretation services for this item, including the simultaneous broadcasting of this meeting in Spanish and Punjabi. If you are present in the meeting room and require Spanish or Punjabi interpretation services, headsets are available at the table just outside this room. The hearing room is equipped with screens on either side of the room, displaying translated materials in Spanish and Punjabi. For Zoom participants, to listen or comment in English, Spanish, and I apologize, I think we're on slide 3 now. For Zoom participants to listen or comment in English, Spanish, or Punjabi, select the language interpretation channel by clicking on the globe icon in the meeting controls at the bottom of your screen. Choose English, Spanish, or Punjabi as your language and mute the original audio. For Zoom, and slide 4 here, for Zoom participants to see the presentation in English, Spanish, or Punjabi, click on View Options at the top of your screen. Select Presentation in English to see the presentation in English. Select Presentación en Español for the presentation in Spanish, and select Presentation in Punjabi for the Punjabi presentation. If you need technical assistance on Zoom, please contact the clerk of the board at board.clerk@waterboards.ca.gov. I will now invite our interpreters to share these instructions in Spanish and Punjabi to help everyone get set up. Good morning. Good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Interpretación al vivo disponible. Si usted está en la sala y necesita un auditivo, por favor déjenos saber y le conseguiremos una para que pueda escuchar. Y si está asistiendo por medio de la plataforma Zoom, por favor busque en la parte inferior de su pantalla un icono de un globo terráqueo que dice Interpretation o Interpretación. Selecciónelo y de ahí seleccione su idioma, Spanish o español, y así podrá escuchar el programa enteramente en su idioma. Adicionalmente, puede elegir el idioma en el cual quiere escuchar o ver más bien la presentación por elegir en la parte superior de su pantalla la opción que dice Presentación en español. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you, Chair SWRCB. We'll hear these instructions now in Punjabi.
Thank you.
मेरा नाम प्रमोद जोशी, मैं अभी पंजाबी का इंटरप्रेटर कर रहा हूँ। अगर आप जूम में लॉगिन किए हो तो आप अपना रूम से बाहर जाके अपना हेडसेट लाएं और हेडसेट ला के अपना जो पंजाबी का जो चैनल है उस चैनल में आप अपना जो इधर का है उसको आप उसमें सुन सकते हो। और जैसे वो जो इंटरप्रेटर का जो आइकन दिखा रहा है वो मीटिंग का, उसमें अब कंट्रोल का बटन है, उसमें आप स्पेनिश, इंग्लिश और पंजाबी का ऑप्शन है, तो आप उसमें पंजाबी में क्लिक करके आप आगे सुन सकते हो। धन्यवाद।
Thank you both very much. Really appreciate the interpretation services for this item. And with that, we'll hand things over to the staff presentation, and I'll look to Ms. Stork to introduce the team. Good to see you today.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair. Chair and members of the board. I'm Natalie Stork, the Director of the Office of Sustainable Groundwater Management, and I'm joined today by Assistant Director Brianna St. Pierre and Angela Kwan, Engineering Geologist, both with our office, as well as Jason Grimm with the Office of Chief Counsel. I will note Zach Mayo, Senior Engineering Geologist, is a critical member of this team but was unable to join us today. We are here today for you, the board, to consider staff's recommendation for the Kauai subbasin to exit the state intervention process and return to the Department of Water Resources jurisdiction under the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, or SGMA. And now I'll hand it over to Brianna to begin the staff presentation. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Natalie. Here is our agenda for the staff presentation. We will first go over the Kauai subbasin background. Then we will touch on the SGMA process for the subbasin. We will briefly discuss the revisions the Groundwater Sustainability Agencies, or GSAs, made to the Groundwater Sustainability Plans, or GSPs, and how deficiencies have been addressed. Finally, we will go over some additional staff recommendations. Next slide, please. We will now quickly go over the Cahuilla Subbasin background. Next slide, please. Here is where the Cahuilla Subbasin sits geographically in the southern San Joaquin Valley. The subbasin is in the Tulare Lake hydrologic region, with the Tulare Lake Subbasin to the west and the Tule Subbasin to the south. The main cities, based on population, are Visalia and Tulare. Next slide, please. There are 3 GSAs that manage the subbasin: the East Cahuilla, Mid Cahuilla, and Greater Cahuilla GSAs. Each GSA wrote their own GSP, and the 3 GSPs are tied together with a coordination agreement. The subbasin has 2 different aquifer systems: a single aquifer in the eastern portion of the subbasin, and an upper and lower aquifer system in the central and western portion of the subbasin. The upper and lower aquifers are divided by the Corcoran Clay, which extends to the west of the approximate line drawn on the map. Next slide, please. We will now go over the State Water Board's SGMA process in the Cahuilla Subbasin during state intervention. Next slide, please. In March 2023, DWR issued a determination stating that the 2022 Cahuilla Subbasin GSPs were inadequate, which initiated the State Water Board's SGMA intervention role. Board staff released a draft staff report in May 2024 that discussed DWR's deficiencies for groundwater levels and land subsidence, and identified concerns for groundwater quality and interconnected surface water. The Cahuilla GSAs revised their GSPs based on feedback from DWR and board staff and released draft amended GSPs in June and October 2024. The GSAs then adopted their final GSPs and coordination agreement in November 2024. Board staff reviewed the 2024 GSPs and coordination agreement and released a staff assessment this past October, followed by a public comment period leading up to today's action item. Next slide, please. Board staff and the Cahuilla GSAs gave joint presentations during the online and in-person public workshops in June 2024. During the state intervention process, board staff had 19 technical meetings with the GSAs and their consultants to discuss revisions to the GSPs. Board staff reviewed the June and October 2024 draft GSPs, as well as the November 2024 final GSPs and coordination agreement. Now I'll hand over the presentation to Angela, who will cover the deficiencies and how the GSAs address the deficiencies in their 2024 GSPs. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Brianna. Good morning. As mentioned earlier, in DWR's review of the 2022 GSPs, DWR identified deficiencies related to chronic lowering of groundwater levels and land subsidence. Board staff also reviewed the 2022 GSPs and identified issues with the proposed approach for degraded groundwater quality and depletion of interconnected surface water, as written in our draft staff report. The Cahuilla GSAs then made revisions to address the deficiencies in their 2024 GSPs. Next slide, please. This table lists all the deficiencies identified in the draft staff report and the status of the deficiencies after board staff reviewed the 2024 GSPs. For the 4 sustainability indicators mentioned in the prior slide, board staff generally had concerns regarding undesirable result definitions, sustainable management criteria, monitoring, and mitigation. You'll see that most of the deficiencies are resolved or substantially resolved, and 1 interconnected surface water deficiency is partially resolved. Now we will walk through how the GSAs addressed the deficiencies. Next slide, please. The groundwater level deficiencies for undesirable result definition, minimum thresholds, and mitigation were resolved by the Kauai GSAs in their 2024 plans to minimize impacts to drinking water users. The GSAs revised their undesirable result definition by clearly indicating what is undesirable for the upper, lower, and single aquifers in the subbasin. The GSAs clearly defined new minimum thresholds, described how they plan to avoid the minimum thresholds, and detailed what mitigation efforts can be used to help drinking water users who may be impacted. The GSAs also performed a dry well susceptibility analysis, incorporated more operational flexibility into their plans, and developed a robust mitigation program to provide assistance for drinking water users, non-drinking water users, and critical infrastructure. And the figure on the right shows the GSA's priorities in developing sustainable management criteria for all of their sustainability indicators. Next slide, please. The groundwater level deficiency for sustainable management criteria relationships was substantially resolved by the Kauai GSAs. The GSAs made significant improvements to describe the impacts of groundwater level minimum thresholds on land subsidence and groundwater storage. However, the GSAs did not thoroughly explain the effects of groundwater level declines on groundwater quality and interconnected surface water, and board staff encouraged the GSAs to incorporate more information in future GSP revisions. The map on the right shows an example of how the GSAs refined their approach for sustainable management criteria relationships. The map depicts the lower aquifer groundwater level representative monitoring sites and the subsidence minimum thresholds in the subbasin. The GSAs used a land subsidence model and determined that subsidence impacts in the subbasin have a strong correlation with lower aquifer groundwater levels. Next slide, please. The GSAs resolved all of the land subsidence deficiencies in their 2024 GSPs by adding steps to stop active subsidence and mitigate for land subsidence impacts. The GSAs developed new sustainable management criteria to protect the Friant Kern Canal and other critical infrastructure in the Kauai subbasin. The GSAs also updated their definitions for undesirable results, set more strict minimum thresholds, and committed to localized pumping cutbacks to avoid any subsidence along the Friant Kern Canal. As mentioned in the previous slide, the GSAs updated their subsidence model and their groundwater level sustainable management criteria to avoid subsidence in the lower aquifer where most subsidence occurs. Lastly, the GSAs added funding and support for critical infrastructure in their mitigation program's technical assistance track. However, additional clarification may be needed in subsequent mitigation plans. Next slide, please. For groundwater quality, the GSAs resolved the deficiencies for undesirable result definitions and sustainable management criteria. The GSAs updated their description of significant and unreasonable effects as the tipping point at which groundwater conditions across the subbasin cause impacts to beneficial users, uses, and property interests that cannot be sustained or mitigated. And this qualitative definition of an undesirable result is depicted in the figure on the right. The GSA's quantitative undesirable result definition was updated to be either 10 separate representative monitoring wells with exceedances due to groundwater activities after January 1st, 2015, or when the GSAs cannot meet mitigation demand for domestic wells impacted by groundwater quality degradation associated with groundwater activities after January 1st, 2015. For sustainable management criteria, the GSAs coordinated with each other to expand their list of constituents of concern and set minimum thresholds at drinking water standards for all of their constituents except for sodium and boron, which do not have established maximum contaminant levels in California, and instead set those minimum thresholds using agricultural water quality goals. Next slide, please. The groundwater quality deficiencies for monitoring and management actions, including mitigation, were substantially resolved by the GSAs in their 2024 plans, but some revisions are still needed. Improvements made by the GSAs in their 2024 plans include developing a minimum threshold exceedance policy and a well registration program. The GSAs also added mitigation for groundwater quality impacts induced by pumping-related changes in groundwater levels. And board staff noted that impacts to groundwater quality can result from pumping activities that don't impact groundwater levels. So we recommended that the GSAs expand coverage in their mitigation program to include groundwater quality impacts due to GSA management. The Kauai GSAs submitted a letter to board staff this past August, committing to revising their mitigation program according to board staff suggestions. For monitoring, the GSAs updated their groundwater quality monitoring network, but had data gaps in their spring 2025 sampling, and the GSAs will need to follow through with their plans to fill those monitoring data gaps. Next slide, please. The GSAs resolved the interconnected surface water deficiencies for impacts on beneficial uses and users and for monitoring. The GSAs refined their description and understanding of beneficial uses and users of interconnected surface water. They established a monitoring network and monitoring frequency, and developed a data gap work plan that identified future monitoring site locations for shallow groundwater level and stream gauge representative monitoring sites. Board staff would like to note that in our staff assessment, we concluded that the monitoring deficiency for interconnected surface water was resolved for the level of available information. Even though the GSAs developed a monitoring network, additional work is needed to fill the data gaps identified in their data gap work plan. Next slide, please. The Kauai GSAs partially resolved the interconnected surface water deficiency for minimum thresholds by setting preliminary minimum thresholds that considered impacts to beneficial uses and users. To resolve the deficiency, the GSAs will need to further develop a model that quantifies surface water depletion. They'll need to revise their minimum thresholds, fully implement their data gap work plan, and incorporate DWR's forthcoming guidance document on sustainable management criteria for interconnected surface water. And the map on the right highlights the proposed future monitoring sites to fill data gaps. Next slide, please. So here, board staff wanted to highlight that the Kauai GSAs really set the benchmark with respect to developing a robust mitigation plan. The GSAs did extensive public engagement and made sure to include many interested parties, including community members, environmental justice advocates, and other NGOs in their plan development process. Now I will hand the presentation back to Brianna. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Angela. Now we will go over recommendations for the Kauai Subbasin. Next slide, please. As stated previously, a staff assessment for the Kauai Subbasin was released on October 13th, which included some recommendations for future GSP revisions. Public comments were due by noon on November 12th. We received one late comment, which was supportive of returning the subbasin to DWR. Next slide, please. Board staff determined that the changes made in the 2024 GSPs and coordination agreement are sufficient to return the Cahuilla subbasin to DWR's jurisdiction at this time. However, through the Sigma implementation period, the GSAs must continue to fill data gaps, integrate new information into their plans, assess the effectiveness of their management, and modify plans and actions as needed to ensure sustainability is reached by 2040. To this end, board staff developed the following recommendations to help the GSAs as they work towards achieving sustainability. The recommendations to send the basin back to DWR is independent of these GSP-related recommendations. For groundwater levels, the GSA should further clarify and continue to research the relationship between lowering groundwater levels and groundwater quality degradation. If appropriate, the GSA should develop plans now to mitigate these impacts. For land subsidence, the GSA should determine the critical head to effectively manage groundwater levels and address ongoing subsidence. They should also clarify what technical and funding assistance will be available for critical infrastructure affected by subsidence in the update to the mitigation program. For groundwater quality, the GSAs should update and revise the representative monitoring sites to have a better understanding of spatial extent and concentrations of constituents based on the spring 2025 sampling results. Lastly, the GSA should revise sustainable management criteria for depletions of interconnected surface water in accordance with guidance from DWR. Next slide, please. The Cahuilla Subbasin's GSAs made significant progress in the 2024 GSPs and demonstrate that the subbasin has a plan to reach sustainability while avoiding significant and unreasonable impacts to beneficial uses and users. Board staff conclude that the 2024 GSPs sufficiently address deficiencies and staff's concerns and recommend that a probationary designation is not warranted and that the Cahuilla subbasin be returned to DWR's jurisdiction. Should board members vote today to return the Cahuilla subbasin to DWR's jurisdiction per the draft resolution, board staff can notify DWR with the letter included with the draft resolution. Next slide, please. Thank you for your time. Concludes the staff presentation. Thank you.
Just a huge amount of appreciation to everyone that has put in a ton of hours and a ton of work here to, as you said, Ms. Pierre and Ms. Stork, really bring they've really set the bar ultimately when it comes to groundwater sustainability plans, and importantly, an approach with communities, an approach with us as regulators, and for as much, desire there may be to thank the board for, one, the recommendation, and if we vote here to return the basin to DWR's control, the thanks is truly back to the leaders here who have created the right relationship and importantly, work through what are really difficult issues, both on the technical side and on the people side. So just a lot of appreciation to everyone here. I know we have a few commenters. I want to hear from them, but look to others at the dais if there's any comment or question here at the start. Okay, hearing none. I want to call up Aaron Fukuda and also hear Mark Larson as our first commenters. And there may be an additional commenter, I think, amongst you as well that have come up as a group. Morning, good to see you all.
Good morning. It's good to be here. Chair Esquivel and the board, we wanted to come up together. This has been a team effort, and we wanted to especially express a lot of appreciation for State Board and State Board staff and this awesome process. It's been new for all of us, and I think it's been a real rewarding process. And we just, first of all, wanted to let you know we're here and available if there's any questions. Aaron?
Yeah, Chairman Esquivel and board members, this is, a good time to reflect about looking back and then kind of looking forward and looking back. I just want to, we're celebrating leaving probation, but I don't want that to be an indicator of our impression of you as the board and your staff. We really appreciated that, the collaboration, and I think getting to the finish line was all about that, getting in the trenches together, right? And our landowners and our businesses are going to benefit from that in our community. Now, looking forward, we understand we had to make difficult decisions in those GSPs, and that's why now our job becomes real, right? We have to go do those things, and we understand that. So I tell our girls, we really needed this process to happen for us to really get the engine started. And if you come, we'll hopefully have you back in the near future. You're going to see things rolling forward. Sustainability isn't easy, but we're have those elements in place, and we're moving the ball forward. So thank you to all parties, our technical teams that are with us, your technical teams. I wish us all the best in the future, where hopefully Mother Nature cooperates. Apparently we got the report on the water year starting out in a good fashion, so hopefully it's going to go that way. So thank you.
So Michael Hagman, I'm with East Kauai, and in the sub-basin, my moniker is Prison Mike. If you ever watch The Office, that's my moniker. It's, we're putting our foot down. We got a problem, Houston. We got to stop doing what we're doing and change our patterns and our development. Additionally, we have a coordination agreement, so I'm supposed to take up 1/3 of the time. That's all my job is. But ultimately, we have been really blessed to have the staff that you had given to us. I'm not sure if other folks got the same kind of staff that we got to help us work through these issues. And we always throw the fear out. The state board's fearful of the state board. They're out here to take over everything. But this is a process. We are needing to fix our basins, and it starts in Kauai for us, and that's our focus. We don't, I farm in the next basin down, so we're going to be on probation. Actually, we're going to form our own GSA. Actually, I don't know what's going on down there. So so fortunately we really have been blessed. So thank you so much for the staff you gave us. I hope other folks had as good of experiences as we did, and we really tackled a lot of hard things. And it isn't easy to mitigate. It isn't easy to collect money from folks who were spending a lot of money on other things. Everything is going up for us in the farming industry, and I've lost probably 30% profit in the same kind of product, same amount of product. It's just things are going up, but it's still a viable business, and we need to eat as a country, as a state, as a community, and we need to work. And it's God's work, and we love it down there. So thank you so much, board.
Thank you all. It has been a real pleasure seeing the deepening of the relationship with us, and know that we are still here. We're here as partners in implementation. We're here as we work through the water rights system and continue to focus on how we get groundwater recharge at the scale and scope that we really need. And just thank you again. The approach has made the complete difference here with us, because we've been learning, as you've said, just as much as you have. This is a new process. Sigma is still only 10 years here. These are the first basins that have been referred to the board. And as we know, there will be times when other basins will be coming to the board. And I think what this has set up is the right relationship. And just from here, myself at the dais, a tremendous amount of humility, because these are very difficult issues. And there are a ton of pressures in our communities, on the ag community right now. But this is preparing us to be sustainable out into the future, to weather what are going to be continued challenges that Mother Nature are going to throw at us. And I know in the conversations I've been able to have with folks, there's sometimes a feeling of like, it'd be great if this, we had done this like 30 or 40 years ago and gotten it done. But what's important is we are getting it done now. And it's here for the benefit of those future generations that won't have to have as hard of a row on getting at least a plan and the infrastructure in place to better manage our groundwater, if not the realities of implementation that are going to be coming. So just thank you. We won't be going anywhere insofar as, again, just continue to build off of the relationship that we have and see us as partners in implementation and the success of the basin. And again, as much, thanks as there is to throw around, it all goes back to you all, because that's what makes the difference here in our process and the ability for the board to come to this moment. And so just thank you, much appreciation.
We recommend you pass us.
We'll take the recommendation in consideration as we hear from further commenters on. Thank you. And here now, let me wake up my tablet so I can get to our next commenters. Next, I'd like to call up Lois Harper and Company, and then Dr. David Bergmanson. Apologies if I messed up your last name there, Doctor. Okay, it looks like Lois is not on the platform. If Dr. David Bergmanson is. Good morning. Good to see you.
Hello. Well, thank you, Chair Esquivel and board members for this opportunity, and also congratulations on the progress that's been made through collaboration and commitment towards sustainability. I'm here as a global ag researcher who supported governments in agriculture transformation to conserve natural resources and increase farm profitability and resilience. And the last intervention pointed out the fact that farmers have really suffered under increased input costs, and yet it's a vital part of the economy and social fabric of the Valley, but also the critical role the Valley plays in food security across the country. So I'm here to propose that the Cahuilla Subbasin become a demonstration site for co-creating technology-enabled solutions that can realize Sigma's vision across California Central Valley. As you all know, Cahuilla faces an overdraft of roughly 100,000 acre-foot annually. And it's a structural deficit. It's not an anomaly, and subsidence is very real and has created the urgency for action, which all of you have taken up. And again, congratulations on the progress that's been made. But the critical question is, how do we close the gap without destroying the agriculture economy that feeds America and is a major employer for the Valley? And so, the answer isn't just simply use less water. You need water for agriculture. But what we can do is a radical transformation in our food production system. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today as a scientist. If I've looked around different technologies that are available that can dramatically increase water use efficiency and profitability for farmers. And it all starts with improving soil health. And so this is one of the interventions that we really want to bring to the table in a co-creation ecosystem, if you will, which you've got well underway through this process. The first one is around earth agriculture that uses OMRI certified inputs to increase soil organic matter from a current level around 0.5% to 1% up to 2.5% or 3.5%. Why this is important is that increasing soil organic matter increases the soil's capacity to hold water. So during those atmospheric rivers, you're actually capturing that water in place and using it for the upcoming season. But it also improves soil health, allowing oxygen to get down into the root profile, making the microbiome, the biological system, if you will, of the soil, to improve input use efficiency as well as water use efficiency. And so this intervention can be, enables a compression of time to realize the increase in soil organic matter from a process that takes 10 years down to a process that can take 2 to 3 years. So a dramatic savings of time, which is a commodity we are in short supply of. The second type of intervention is really around delivery efficiency, and that's through fertigation. One of the partners that we've been looking at, Bennett Fertigation, has increase the distribution efficiency and uniformity to 93% versus a standard 60 to 75% from drip irrigation systems. And so what this does is allow us to deliver that nutrition and moisture at the root zone at the right time, dramatically improving the efficiency. So we can actually, from both of these interventions, dramatically reduce our nitrogen application. And obviously, this has a ripple effect on nitrate loading in the aquifer. So basically, we combine these two technologies, we can realize dramatic water and nitrate reductions in the agriculture sector, and in so doing, actually conserve more land and maintain it in production profitably. So really our intervention, and I have a one-pager that helps distill this for the board's consideration. Unfortunately, we didn't submit this in time to be presented here, but I will follow up with an email to share that with you. But really, it's just this co-creation implementation. As was said, this is the starting point towards actually realizing this vision. And we would like to partner with the state in making it real by leveraging innovation, applying data science, and helping farmers make better decisions around profitability and resilience. And so with that, I yield back my time, and I'll follow up with a one-pager that distills this rather complex system, and yet we feel confident that we have the biological-based solutions to improve profitability and resilience and reduce our water consumption in the ag sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bergmanson. I appreciate and look forward to the summary. What certainly comes to mind are our programs like the Irrigated Lands Regulatory Program or CV salts, or these programs that actually, as the GSPs here have been developed and worked, are kind of coming to a moment where there is a better synergy amongst them. So I appreciate your comments, appreciate your desire for a more integrative approach, and I think you'll find the board is also wanting to ensure that's the case. So thank you. Next, I'd like to call up Tien Tran, and be followed by Natalie Escobedo Garcia. Dr. Garcia.
Hi, everyone. Tien Tran with Community Water Center. And just want to thank the State Water Board, the chair, the members and also the staff for really helping us throughout this probationary process. I know when it first started out, we were like, what are we doing? But now we're here, and I think we've really seen, the fruits of your labor and all the technical and expertise that you've, contributed to this probationary process. I also want to thank General Managers Mike, Aaron, and Mark for really having this culture of collaboration, not just with the NGOs and other local agencies, but really trying to come together and make sure that we can have a common ground to speak on and to work off of. And I would say that culture of collaboration, I experienced that, before the probationary process. So a month or two into me starting my role at Community Water Center, I met with Mike to talk about the mitigation program for East Cahuilla. And, that kind of really sparked our relationship and really helped me, think through, okay, how can I work together in this subbasin to make sure that impacted communities have their drinking water protected, while also considering all the other beneficial uses and users. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of the different improvements that have been made since this probationary process, with a focus on the mitigation program, being able to partner with self-help enterprises and really work through the kinks and details of what it means to provide, interim water supply and also long-term water supplies, is monumental, especially to communities where they have been left behind. And also want to highlight the collaboration, with Tulare County in terms of the well registration and well inventory program that they've conducted, and the small community well proactive and protective plan. I think being able to support domestic well users, small water, community water systems, and really just having a better sense of where potential impacts could be, where they're happening, and how can we address it, is honestly what SGMA is all about. And what the Human Right to Water is all about. So, I really am excited to say that we recommend that the State Water Board recommend that the subbasin go back to DWR. And I think all the general managers know this, but we're going to continue to hold all the agencies accountable and make sure that this plan leads to real outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tran. Really appreciate your leadership, contributions, and work here and working with the basin and representing communities and their voices. It means a lot. And again, the collaboration word gets thrown around a lot, oftentimes as a thing that we aspire to do or say that we do. But this has been collaboration in action, not just in words, and it shows. And so thank you. And because of the engagement across groups, NGOs, and communities, importantly. Last, I'd like to call up Dr. Natalie Escobedo Garcia.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can. Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see y'all too. As Chair Esquivel mentioned, my name is Dr. Escobedo Garcia, but y'all can call me Natalie. I'm here on behalf of Leadership Council, and I'm commenting today to express our support for returning the Kauai Subbasin to DWR's jurisdiction. Over the past 3 years, we've seen meaningful and genuine improvements to updated groundwater sustainability plans. The subbasin has strengthened its criteria in several important ways, including groundwater levels, now having clearer, more proactive thresholds and objectives, as well as groundwater quality policies having been updated with a more relevant list of contaminants. Additionally, the subbasin criteria is now more robust. Subsidence criteria is now more robust and better accounts for potential impacts to critical infrastructure. These changes show a real commitment to addressing the issues that previously held the plans back. We also appreciate the improvements to the monitoring networks, particularly for groundwater quality. Testing is now being done twice a year, and the subbasin has identified replacement wells to ensure that monitoring networks stay reliable over time. These changes give us more confidence that problems will be detected early and addressed responsibly. Last, we believe the updated GSPs and the process that was laid out between the Kauai Subbasin and the State Water Board set an important precedent for how a subbasin successfully works with the board while on probation. For these reasons, we believe it is appropriate for the Kauai Subbasin to return to DWR's jurisdiction. We're optimistic the subbasin is well on its path to reach sustainability by 2040, and we look forward to continuing to work with the subbasin on long-term implementation. Thank you.
Thank you as well, Dr. Garcia, for your contributions here and leadership and voice. Again, it's been just a pleasure to see this all unfold, and many thanks. All right, looking to fellow board colleagues, if they have comments or questions. I don't want to belabor things as well on my part, so I'm going to stay silent for a moment, but open up the dais for folks here. Board Member Firestone.
Yeah, I'll echo what's been said and just want to recognize the leadership at Kauai in particular as a leader in Sigma development and implementation. And even though there are other basins that we've recommended go back to DWR, I think those have really been following the leadership of Kauai in terms of how they've looked to implement and develop Sigma. Just, and I think a master class on how to tackle really, really challenging problems in a collaborative way and really meaningfully listen and co-develop a plan. And now is the hard part of continuing to implement and develop that plan. It's not easy. It's going to be a real impact on communities and individuals in the area, but also will allow a future for the region that otherwise wouldn't be possible. So appreciate everyone's work and happy to do a motion when others are ready.
Board Member Morgan.
I just wanted to echo the comments and thank you for your leadership. Thank staff for all of their hard work and everyone who has contributed to getting us here today, and happy to make a second.
Board Member McGuire.
I don't know if I can make a third, but if really, I've been looking forward to this day for quite some time. I know it's been a while since the subbasin, you updated your plans and have been anxiously awaiting a decision from the water board here. So I'm glad this moment has finally arrived with the recommendations that we have for us here. And I just want to I think all the comments have been made are spot on. But really, we don't get here without a subbasin internally finding the strength and resolve to coordinate amongst itself. So I appreciated the reference to the coordination agreement, and I think this is really tantamount to what we need to see in any subbasin around the state that is looking for models of success. It's seeing that the groundwater sustainability agencies are truly partnering together and not only listening externally to state regulators, to other community groups, but also talking amongst yourselves and really figuring out what that path forward can look like as a subbasin. So I really appreciate that. I think that spoke loud and clear here when thinking about mitigation, when looking at subsidence and a lot of the challenges that you're going to continue to face going forward. The challenge is going to be with implementation and staying on the same page amongst the three GSAs. So thank you again. Really remarkable effort, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, board members. All very well said. And I think we have both a motion and a second, but you said
Make a
when we're prepared.
motion. I'll make a motion to adopt.
I'll second.
Do we have a third? No. Ms. Tyler, can you please call a roll call vote?
Board Member Firestone,
Aye.
Board Member Morgan,
Aye.
Board Member McGuire,
Aye.
and Chair Esquivel.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you as well. And the vote is unanimous. And huge congratulations to everyone collectively. Now, as has been said, the real work of continued implementation goes on, and we're here as partners. So thank you and congrats. Thank you all. And so that concludes item number 6 and is bringing us here quickly to the end of our board meeting with board member reports. So look to fellow board colleagues if they are, and anyone's prepared at this moment for a report. I need to look at my calendar.
I have nothing to report.
Thank you, board member.
No report here either.
And I'll just, since I know this is the last board meeting, I'll just mention over coming ahead over the next month, starting tomorrow, I'll participate in a couple panels at the Aqua conference, one on data and affordability, and another on regional consolidation. And then also will be participating in the last of a series of workshops with the communities in Northern Tulare County on regional consolidation there, sort of seeing if they're going to come together to develop a regional consolidation proposal. And look forward to the end of the year and a little break, and starting next year with renewed energy.
Here, here. Thank you, board member. Just quickly, on the 19th and 20th, I was down in the Coachella Valley attending the California Federation, I think it is, for the Economy and the Environment, CFE conference. And while I was down, also attended the 100th anniversary of Valley Sanitary District. Yeah, there in the Coachella Valley in Indio. They largely serve the city of Indio, which the sanitary district predates the incorporation of the city by like 5 years. And so I think it really just speaks to how critical it is that our wastewater systems and managing sanitation are to the growth and foundation of so many of our communities. So it was nice to be down there and to celebrate that 100th anniversary of theirs. And then that's about all I have. I will also be headed down to Aqua on a panel around water accounting and the Delta. So that'll be nice. All right. That concludes board member reports. Mr. Oppenheimer, is there anything from the executive director's report you'd like to highlight?
A couple of quick mentions. One, in the water rights section, there's a few items on water quality certifications for hydro projects. The one I just wanted to bring to your attention was for the Yuba River Development Project and Narrows Hydroelectric Project, 2 projects, 1 certification on the Yuba River. Comment period for that closed on December 1st. Yesterday, we received, so at least by current count, 3 comment letters. The final action date for that, I believe, is December 30th. So we'll intend on going through the comment letters, determining if we need to make any revisions, and issuing a final certification by the end of the month. The other thing I just wanted to highlight was that Office of Public Engagement, Equity, Tribal Affairs reports quarterly. This month is their quarterly report, and so it's worth looking at that if you want to know what they've been up to over the last few months. There's a pretty comprehensive update in there. That's all I've got.
Thank you. That's all about it. The executive director's report has a ton in there, and so just really appreciate it. All right, that now brings us to the end of our board meeting. We will have closed session on sites, which I think we're going to room 2550. Mr. Loffer, is that the room we're in?
So there are lots of wrinkles here.
Okay.
We can convene in 2550, but not until 1 p.m.
Okay, 1.
That
Okay.
room is not available until then. If the board would like, you could retire to closed session for the next hour, and we have conference room 2540 available, or you could take an early lunch and just start up at 1.
Let's go ahead and we'll take a lunch now. It'll be a little longer, and we can just start at 1 because I feel starting for 30 minutes or something in one room and switching is probably not going to be worth it. So we'll go ahead and give ourselves a break. We will convene at 1 o'clock in room 2550 here in the building in closed session on sites. And then otherwise, this is our last board meeting of the year. And so just thank you everyone for what has been an incredible year. Next year promises to be just as incredible, a lot going on. But just really appreciative of everyone and looking forward to seeing everyone in the new year. Our next board meeting will be January 6th. Until then, be safe, be well. We'll see you all soon. Thank you. And we'll officially adjourn after closed session here. So thanks all.